Hey guys, just waiting for some more people to come in before I start. So how's everybody doing? This is like my first time going live on TikTok, so it's going to be pretty new to me. So I'm going to start probably about 8, maybe 8:03, 8:04. I'm just looking around this live thing trying to get familiar with it. There's so much up here. But I hope everybody's having a good day. I hope everybody has had a blessed week so far, getting prepared for Christmas. I think I've done all I can do. It's my mom's birthday. It's Christmas Eve. Then we're hosting Christmas before we head out of town on Monday to visit some family. Trying to make sure I got all this stuff up. So I would like everybody, if you haven't liked my page yet, to like it. What do they say? Like, subscribe, share. Like I said, this is like my first live, but I'm not new to TikTok, but I just always come on and meet friends and listen to other people's stories, and I realized I got a story to tell now. Okay, I'm gonna give you about one more minute. One thing that kind of bothers me about live, like TikTok and Facebook, I don't know what people are talking. I hope I don't miss anyone. So anyway, I'll start out by saying, if you looked at any of my pictures or just my profile in general, I'm Shanita, but my TikTok is Shay Snow the Realist. Okay. And I'm 40. How old am I? I'm 42. And I'm just a lover of people. I love to give life and shed light on people. When I learn things, I like to share them. And I hold it to myself. So I recently have gone through some quite traumatic events dealing with my health. And it was some things that I wanted to bring to your attention, and just getting some things out there about what I went through and how I'm dealing with them now. Um, People are asking to join live. Okay. So, um, early part of November, I got pretty sick. Found out that I was hypoglycemic, and I was in the hospital. Well, actually, I was rushed to the hospital because I was extremely confused. I didn't even know my date of birth, what street I lived on, anything. So, got to the hospital, and I noticed that, like when I would go to urinate, it was like this heaviness in my vaginal area, but I didn't know what was going on, didn't know, really to even bring it to anyone's attention, because I had so much other stuff going on that I was so, just fixated on my blood sugars that they couldn't regulate it and so forth. So they ended up admitting me into the hospital. And so while I was in there, and I'm going to set this up as a story time. It's not anything like you got to write nothing down. I'm just talking. Maybe later on, we maybe go into some more specific things that I'm learning about the condition that I had, things that I'm going through now, how my life is changing, blah, 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 blah. But anyway, and I was admitted. And my nurse came in and she was like, you feeling okay? And I'm like, yeah, but there's something happening, down below. There's a heaviness in my vagina, and I don't know what that is. And so she said, do you think you might be getting a yeast infection? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't think so. I wasn't itching. Nothing of the sorts. So she called the doctor in, and she came in and she looked. She said, oh my God. And she said, you have a very large, I hope I'm saying it right. It's called a Bandelin cyst, or what we would call just a labial abscess. In the inside of your vagina, and it's huge. And she was like, there's no medication that can get rid of this. We're pretty much gonna have to lance it and see what happens. So she's touching this, and I'm like, oh my God, that is so painful, like to touch it. And I was kind of confused as to why it didn't feel like that before. And so I'm like, ain't nobody doing nothing to that thing. I can't take it. I mean, that's just how painful it was. And just give you some background on me and pain. I have a high tolerance for pain. I've been through numerous surgeries since I was 12 years old, from appendectomy, getting tonsils out, sinus surgeries, knee scopes, C-section. I mean, I've had it. I've never been the one to shy away from if doctor says, oh, this is going to hurt, or you might feel a little pressure here. It never really bothered me too bad. So, but this was on another level that I was like, there's no way that I'm letting anybody touch this thing. So they called in the gynecologist. Actually, there was just one at that particular time. She came in and she was messing with it. And I said, ma'am, you're going to have to stop. I said, I can't take, that's just how painful this was. And she said, well, we can give you medication. I can put lidocaine there to lance it. And I said, no, we're not going to lance that. You're going to take me to the ER. And I was very, very, very adamant about that because I knew I would be in tremendous pain. On top of the fact that I'm dealing with low blood sugars already, very agitated, not wanting to eat, just it was just a very bad time for me. And so she said, well, let me see what I can do. She said they may let me operate on it because you are already admitted into the hospital. So this was probably around maybe 2 p.m. And so she comes back maybe like 30 minutes later, and she's like, we got to go ahead. We're going to take it to the ER. We're going to go in there and, pretty much get this taken care of, do some cultures on it, make sure it's not an infection, clean it out, and hopefully you'll be good to go. So I had to wait 8 hours before the surgery because I had just eaten. And, with surgeries, they don't want you to have anything on your stomach for at least like 8 or 9 hours. So I waited. So when the time came, I'm like, thank you, God. I'm ready to get this thing taken care of. So they wheeled me into the operating room, go through the operation. Fine. So the next day, the nurse and the doctors come back in there and they're talking to me about the surgery. They said everything went well. They were able to clean it out. None of the cultures had come back about if it was infected or anything yet. But they told me that they had to pack the wound because they actually had to go in and where the Bandolin cyst, actually what it is females in our labia, on each side of the labia, there are what they call Bandolin glands. And these glands secrete mucus to help keep our vaginas lubricated. And if those glands get impacted or clogged up, they can cause cysts that are very painful. Some of the Bandolin cysts may not get as large as mine, but mine was, it was almost the size of a walnut on the inside of the vagina, not the outside, on the inside of the labia where your two folds are, on the inside. So they had to cut that out, and of course they had to pack it so that it did not ooze blood, it wouldn't get infected, it had to heal up. So she told me that they had already packed it from the surgery night before, but they needed to remove the packing and actually have my mother come and watch how they remove the packing so that she can do this every day. So my mother and my sister come to watch this nurse do this. Guys, I was on morphine and I was screaming from them removing the packing and trying to show my mom and my sister how to do this. And my mom was like, I can't do this. I can't do it. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, you're not going to. So the nurse tries to repack the area, and it was just excruciating pain. So one of the nurses came in and she kept just giving me morphine until she was pretty much had all the packing in, and I just drifted off to sleep. So my mom and my sister ended up leaving the hospital and just so I could rest. Well, when they left, I sat up and I just felt like this gushing, just gushing, warm, and I am bleeding. And so I looked down and the part of the bed where your butt is and it goes down to your leg, the whole bed was almost saturated in my blood from what they had done. So the nurse is like, oh my God. So she calls in the gynecology team, just rushes in there. So there was one head gynecologist and then two that were I guess they were doing their residency or whatever. So they run in there and they're seeing what's happening, oh my God. So they start trying to change the dressings and everything so they could at least give a clean area to work with. And the gynecologist is like, okay, I'm going to have to pinch this off because this is hemorrhaging, where the surgery was at. So she's holding, can you imagine? I just had surgery on something. All I'm really on is the morphine, and that doesn't last. So she has her fingers clenching where this was. So I'm sitting there, and I'm laying there, and I'm screaming, I'm saying, can you please not do this? Can you please stop? Please get your hand from down there. Please, 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 please. And she said, if I let go, she said, you're going to bleed on this table. You're going to bleed out because I'm also anemic. So my red blood cell, even before I had the surgery, I had to get a blood transfusion. My red blood cell count was around a 5. So she said she had to clamp that down as much as she could. So she's calling for every nurse on the floor to bring her sutures, bring her, so they had to stitch it up. Sutures, gauze, anything you can think of, they would have in the operating room to close somebody up is what she was asking for. Nurses are coming in there bringing anything and everything, and they're like, no, not that. And then they're asking for certain things, and they're not bringing the right stuff. So the doctor that was actually clamping down on the wound, she said, I'm going to go ahead and give you some lidocaine so that we can go ahead and start trying to get you numb. Why? Y'all, just even thinking about this, I'm like my heart is pounding. So she gets the lidocaine. Yeah, I'm feeling okay right now. But I'll go into how I really feel. But she gets the lidocaine and she starts injecting this lidocaine. And I'm screaming. I'm just screaming. Just screaming. This is how bad it was. So when the other doctors come back in, they have the actual needle to sew me up. And they start to, I asked them how many stitches I was going to need. And they're like, 2. So they did 1, and I'm laying there, and I'm shaking and crying. Crying. And I said, I can't go through this. And I said, y'all going to have to stop. So the doctor's like, what do you need? What do you need for us to do to get you through this? And I said, you're going to have to pump me with that morphine and don't stop until you finish what you're doing. It took the edge off, but it was horrific. It's about as plain as I could tell you. It was horrific. And I asked them, I said, can y'all take me back to the operating room? She's like, no, it's already been prepped for another patient. They only had 1. So, and then on top of that, there were the sutures they were using. The lady gave her the sutures. She said, no, we need disposable, not permanent sutures. So I'm like, who are these people? Where are they? Who taught them? So, after they finished everything, I told them, I said, get off of me. Stop. I didn't want to talk to them anymore. Even though I knew in my heart that I think that she did the best that she knew how because she wanted to save my life. And she came up to me afterwards and she was crying. She said, "I'm so sorry." She said, "But I had to do what I had to do to save you." And so when they left, I mean, that's where my trauma started. To the point, like, that night, I was like, I don't even want to be here, because I felt like they had lied to me. It was more than 2 stitches. It was actually 4 or 5. When they told me that they were done, they just kept messing with it. So anyway, the next morning, one of the other doctors came in there, and when she came in there, I cried like a baby, like a child that wants their mama. That ain't me. That's not me. And I told her, I said, don't touch me. Don't touch me. And she was like, she said, "I'm sorry for what we had to do." She said, "But we had to do it, So anyway, I was discharged after 4 days. I had to follow up with their gynecologist several times. That's not the end of the story. 5 days later, feeling okay. They had, even in my follow-ups, they repacked it. Everything was feeling fine. My packing actually came out, was no blood or anything like that. Well, the 5th day, I was just out in the living room talking to my mom, and I'm like, I just felt wet again. I'm like, oh my God. And I went in the bathroom, and it's just blood is coming out everywhere. Called the ambulance. They treated me so horribly. I told them I was anemic. I told them I was bleeding. I was so bloody that I had wrapped myself up in a blanket. They wheeled me, once they got me to the hospital, wheeled me to the registration desk in the ER and left me there. I had to call my father. Every nurse that came by was telling him what was going on. They were like, "Oh, you're not my patient." So they eventually got me a little bed out in the hallway and got me into a room in the ER. And they looked and found out that there's actually, they didn't know really where the blood was coming from, but it was so much. And I had gotten to the point where I think my blood count had gotten down to a 3. And I called my mom, and I was just like, "Mom, I'm just so tired." I mean, like, at this point, I was literally almost out of here again. And the nurses came by and said, "Okay, we got to take you back to the ER, but we got to get you some blood before we do this, because you're not going to get through it if we don't give you the blood." So I went through the surgery, came back through the surgery, found out that there was actually an artery, a small artery that was actually nicked on the inside of my vagina that was actually hemorrhaging. So they fixed that, and I went home maybe like 2 days later. Last part of the story was that I started healing. I started feeling fine. And then 2 weeks later, which was 2 weeks ago, I went for my supposedly last checkup with the gynecology, and I told him it was still like sore and tight feeling down there. Y'all, the stitches were still there. Why were the stitches still there? They weren't disposable. They had put permanent stitches in my labia. So they had to cut all that out, untangle it, which was not fun to go through either. But once they did that, like, I don't feel nothing no more. I went back to the gynecologist yesterday, and she looked at it and she said, "You're all healed down here, I mean, it feels fine now. But that started my medical trauma, to the point now that I'm in therapy. I have been diagnosed with PTSD. When I go to a doctor's office, I hyperventilate. I don't trust doctors. Some of them. My primary care, kinda, but I've never been here before. There's certain things on TV. I used to love crime shows, used to love horror movies, used to love watching anything bloody and gory. I can't do it no more. I can't watch that stuff. Going to bed is a problem because I constantly think about it. I can actually sometimes still feel what I felt those days. So this is going to be a process to help me, travail through this. And I know I'm going to get through it with the Lord. I know I'm going to get through it with therapy, with my family. And then by just being very optimistic and realizing what took place, it could have been avoided, but it still happened to me. It affected me in a major way. And if you're dealing with medical trauma, you're dealing with something that happened to you, do not hold it in. It's worse when you hold it in. Talk about it. Try to make some sense of it if you can. Definitely seek therapy if you need it. They can give you certain coping mechanisms once they do an evaluation to ensure that, that it is PTSD. They give you certain ways to cope with it. And then trying to get back out there and to know that the medicine, the field is necessary, is needed. A lot of doctors have healed people, diagnosed people, misdiagnosed people, and it's gonna still happen. It's still going to occur in the world, but we can't stop. I'm gonna say for myself, not going to the doctor, because I have other things now that I have to still address. But I'm getting so much better. Before it was very bleak. It was like every time I went to the doctor, it was something else, some type of infection, something going on that I didn't know was there. But we're knocking them down one by one. I have currently gotten off of any mood-altering medication that I was on for the past 5 or 6 years since I went through a divorce. I've gotten off of that stuff. Anything dealing with nerve pain, I've gotten off that too. I gotta think, this is me being in this state, even though I don't like the trauma that I'm dealing with. It's caused me to think more. It's caused me to look at my body more and say, what does my body need? Just because me and you look alike don't mean that we need the same things. So, I'm not going to hold you much longer, because if I keep talking about it, I feel like my blood pressure going to go sky high. But I hope to continue to make friends here, that you all find a safe space here to talk to me. I'll be live more. I don't want to be live just to be up here talking about crap. I don't have time for that. I just want to be able to help people. We can laugh. We can talk about life situations. But I am real. I just want to be real with you. But thanks so much for joining me. And I look forward to talking to you more. Good night. Now I got to figure out how to end it.